This is Houston, loud and clear. Break, buzz, this is Houston. Radio check and verify TV circuit breaker in. Read 5 clear. And we're getting a picture on the TV.
The hopper. Yeah, the hopper. The hopper. That one DVR lets us record up to 6 shows at once and play them back in any room.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Satellites Unlimited podcast. My name is Grant Hoban. I am filling in for our normal host, Mark Hamill, today. As always, we are joined with John P., and we have a special guest today, Manager of Technician Development, Todd McClinton. Todd, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. It's an honor and a pleasure to be able to spend some time with you guys here on this podcast.
And John, what's going on in your world?
You know, Grant, Todd, I am just so excited to be here on this podcast. What a great episode. You know what? We are being heard worldwide. And Grant, you know, we have fans all over the United States right now. Places that you wouldn't think we'd have fans, right? But it's amazing.
Yeah, no, we're seeing some tracks across the U.S. for sure, and we have our sites internationally. So, we're coming off of this 4th of July holiday. So, guys, how was your holiday?
Well, I'll take that one. We over the last few podcasts, we talked about side gigs, right? And every year for the last forever, as long as I can remember, I've done a catering event for a family out on Lake Martin. So one thing I can absolutely say to all of our technicians out there, I verify it is really hot outside, guys. I started cooking at 12 o'clock on a pit in 106 degree feels like temperatures. I did stay hydrated, John P.
I'm glad to hear that.
But it was an interesting event, so we didn't really enjoy a whole lot of the 4th of July festivities, but we made some good money on a side gig.
Hey, can't beat that. John, how about you?
So here was my 4th of July, and I know that it's tradition that people generally will cook out on the grill on 4th of July. We have a grill too at our house. However, could not use it because right now it is the home for a bird's nest. And yes, Todd.
Bird's nest.
Bird's nest. Yes. So, we have the grill is covered somehow, some way. These birds got up through an opening in the grill, built this very elaborate nest, as birds will do, right? Indeed. And so the eggs are in there, and neither my wife nor myself had the heart to remove the bird's nest. So they were still making our grill their home. So instead of grilling out on the 4th of July, friends, my wife made a pot roast in the oven. But that's okay, though, because I love pot roast.
I'm a big fan of pot roast myself. Yeah. It's unfortunate, John, that those were not chickens in your grill, because there's a ready-made grill feast right there.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And, you could have killed 2 birds with one stone. No pun intended.
But anyway, that was my 4th of July dinner. It was pot roast, yes. And I enjoyed it very much.
What kind of vegetables, John?
In the pot roast, we had the traditional, carrots, potatoes. I would have liked some onions, but my wife doesn't like onions. So since she did the cooking, no onions in the pot roast. But it was a good time for all, and a nice 4th of July. I am not a fireworks person, guys. However, my wife and daughter, they are. So they went to a event at the Morris Ballpark. And it was a great fireworks display. I chose, though, to stay home because I'm just not a fireworks kind of guy.
I think I've been to that one. It's a pretty good show.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I saw a video that went viral of a family celebrating out front of their house. I don't know if either of you two guys saw this, but a firework lit off prematurely, the box tipped over, what have you. It ended up sparking the entire supply by the vehicle behind, there's a vehicle in the driveway, and that's where they kind of had their stockpile of fireworks for the evening. Well, that sparked that entire pile, and the family went scurrying. I mean, there was little kids out there. It was really scary, to be honest with you, and by the time it got done, it looked like an actual war zone. I
saw that on the news a couple of days ago. Yes, it was bad. Now, where was that? Was that in the New Orleans area?
I'm not sure where that was, but I gotta say, I watched that thing like about 10 times. And I tracked every single person in response to the fireworks actually blowing up. I kept on going back and watching. So,
we should have looped in Cortez on fireworks safety for this episode.
No, it's a great point. And, to your guys' point, this time of year, I mean, we're looking at record temperatures again this week, and it's just such a dangerous time to be working out in the field, and so imperative that our folks take care of one another. I tell you what, we got a jam-packed episode per usual. We have 3 special guests in the lineup today. We're going to be speaking to Hattiesburg's John Richert. We're going to continue the game show tradition with Mr. Ryan Hebert out of the Baton Rouge location. And then we're going to talk a little celebrities. Our podcast question was sent out. Have you ever worked in a celebrity's home? So we'll be bringing on Dustin Collie to tell us about some of his personal experiences as it pertains to that. And we'll share ours if we have any. And we will do our typical tech stories. We'll do a recap at the end of the episode, but I'm excited about today.
Yeah, it's a great show, or it's going to be, and I'm ready to get rolling here, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I would just say, hey, we're going to do the best job we can in Mark's absence. He is our podcast connoisseur, so to speak, and he does a great job. We've mentioned it on Velocity Calls of just kind of keeping us on track. He's essentially the field general of this podcast. Todd, in the training world, is there anything kind of brewing on the surface that we have coming up? Anything that you're specifically focused on at this point in time?
So we're absolutely just trying to get more technicians in. I would reference the employee referral program because that really is the main feeder for what we do here, right? If we can't train techs if we don't get them in, and so I would just say to that effect, we don't have anything necessarily special going on right now, other than just normal day-to-day training. But I would highly encourage, especially this time of year, you got a lot of guys out there looking for work, and if you know one, there's a lot of money involved in that for you personally if you refer them. I think it's $600 now, is it not?
Yeah, I think so. And it's interesting also with the employee referral program, some of our best hires come from our referrals. People that work here, have been here for years, know somebody that they think would be a good fit, and they end up getting hired here and do a great job for us. So I think probably, what would you say, at one time it was like 40% of our hires came as a result of employee referrals.
They do, and interesting fact also, they have a tendency to be more successful earlier because it only stands to reason if I refer somebody, I've got a vested interest in that person's career, and so it's mutually beneficial, right? You get the money for that. Now, I operated a little bit differently, Grant, because there's $600 on the table. And so if there were somebody that I knew that I thought would be a good fit for the company, I absolutely would approach that person about it, right? But I kind of operated a little bit differently in that if I went to a customer's house on a random Thursday and there's an able-bodied person at the house and they're not at work at noon on a Thursday, I'm having a conversation. I'm not just referring people I know intimately. I'm referring anybody that I think may look like a good fit.
I tell you what, I am so glad you brought up that point, because I remember back in the days when I was in recruiting and we would call somebody that applied for the position and we asked, hey, how'd you hear about us? And they'd say, oh, one of your guys was at my house over the weekend, did an install, told me about the company, said you guys were hiring, so I decided to apply online. We have gained so many great employees that started off with us as customers. So most definitely that approach is the right approach, Todd.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's a screening process in place for a reason, right? And just, again, I mean, there's a lot of folks out there that you may encounter on those specific appointments that you may not know a whole lot about this individual, but trust in the screening process, right? So we have the mechanical aptitude test. We got the screening done by the recruiter. There's the whole interview process. So ultimately, the right decision will be made. So I tell you what, we are ready for our first guest. We have Mr. John Richert out of the Hattiesburg office, and I'm going to send this over to Todd for the interview.
Your systems are offline.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Grant. Hey, John, can you hear me okay?
Hey, Todd. Man, it's fantastic.
I hear that smile over the phone.
It happens.
I absolutely hear that. I'm so proud to be able to be included in this podcast, and even more so because I get the opportunity to talk with you. It's an honor to talk to one of our highest performing technicians and consistent technicians. So if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Go ahead. Shoot away.
Awesome. So, the reason we got you on today and on this podcast is primarily because for the month of May, I believe, you were the single highest performing technician in this company. I've always been a big fan of each one teach one. So one of the things I'm going to focus on this interview, if you don't mind, is really talking about how did you get to there? Because being an excellent getting to the top of anything, whether that be a technician with SUI or any other industry, is a journey. And I'd like to kind of explore that journey and then maybe nail down a couple of things about how you achieve specific things within that journey. So first question I have really is, you came with some prior experience, if I'm not mistaken. How did that prior experience start you on your SUI journey of excellence?
Well, first of all, us as technicians, we are limited by, who trains us. And when I came into the industry, I was fortunate to have a great mentor. And, he showed me the ropes. He showed me what to look for, how to troubleshoot, how to, install some, just little things like that. But, what separates, average technicians to, top performance, and I just do my job, but I put myself in the customer's position. Would I want this fixed? They are paying for a service that is supposed to work. And do I succeed every time? No, I am not perfect. But I do my best. If I was that customer, would I want my system working correctly? Yes, I would, because I'm paying for a service. So I try to give them the service that I would want. That is one of the main focuses of every new connect, every trouble call, every customer I come into contact with. And I like to think that my customers feel that and think that.
Well, your numbers kind of indicate that they do. Now, I'm not going to let that go, John. Somebody mentored you when you came in. You made reference to who trained you. You got to give a shout out to him. Who is that?
Actually, his name was, he's no longer with the company. He was with the company, but it was Tony Caswell. He was up in the Grenada office for a short time.
Okay. So, you indicated that or what I heard out of what you just said is, it's always best to start a journey with the right foot forward, and we do that, and it's near and dear to my heart because training is that first step when you first come to SUI. You are a lead tech in Hattiesburg. I'm interested to know what is the one lesson you make sure that every single trainee that leaves you understands.
Oh, that is a great question.
You only get one. Now, this has got to be that ringer.
Yeah.
You have to give me the one that you wouldn't let a trainee out of your sight without them understanding, right?
It comes down to making sure they understand that, putting themselves in the customer's shoes.
So,
would you want that at your house? That is one thing I preach a lot of things, to my trainees, but the main thing that, one of the things I always talk about, would you want that at your house?
Right. The way I always looked at that, John, is I always treated a house like I was putting it in my grandmother's house.
That is correct. That is correct.
Awesome. So, achieving success can mean a lot of things, and there are several technicians that are very successful in lots of areas. We have lots of different things that we measure. Being the tech of the month, though, for the entire company, and you have to put this into perspective, John. You're not just the top tech in this company for the month of May. You very likely are the top tech in the country, because we lead and exceed the expectations on many levels with Dish Network. So it really is an accomplishment, and there's some money behind it, and there's some other things, but there's a level of consistency that you've displayed over the years that just boggles the mind. But what I'd like to talk about now is really dig in, because again, I believe each one teach one. We can all learn from each other, and that's kind of what this podcast is about to some degree. So the next few questions I'm going to ask are very metric specific.
Okay.
So when we look at your numbers for the month of May, and we look at one of the most important things, and that is customer satisfaction, you came in at an 8.89. I can't help but believe that when does a good CSAT score start? When do you start building a good CSAT score with a customer?
It's all with that initial phone call. And me and Grant, we've talked about this. We've actually had a blog on this as well. But you heard that smile. We've talked about the smile, and it starts there. And I've actually had customers, I've ran behind in the day, and they knew that they were going to be missing their window of when we say, or Dish said that we were going to be there.
Right.
But when they hear me, I don't know what kind of day they had. I don't know what kind of problems they had. But it is my job to make them feel like they're getting an A performance, that they're going to get the number one tech that I can possibly give them. I mean, I don't try to be anybody other than me. I'm not trying to be another top tech in this company or in the country. I can only do me. And that's another thing I do tell my techs, don't be me, be you. Right. Find what's good, find what you can do that's great.
Right. You seem to be accomplishing that. So a couple of other metrics that are pretty impressive. R12, you're at a 1.16, I believe. When you roll behind other technicians on an R12, what's the most common thing that you find? And what advice would you give our fellow technicians about avoiding a TC?
We're not rocket scientists out here. Our equipment is dish, coax, receiver. That's it.
Right.
It's just how we get it there. And if I see something I don't like, being it from old coax, I had a job yesterday that it was an R12, it was a new connect, and something just wasn't it just didn't do right. So I investigated just a little bit, and I found a lot of things that were incorrect. So instead of me tracing down where all this stuff was, I wasn't going to waste my time. It took me 20 minutes to run a new coax.
Right.
I told the customer what I was going to do. They agreed to it. We did it, and I had the system up and running. Instead of chasing fires, I try to eliminate fires. So, look at the system, get a game plan, know where everything is, and that's how you can consistently, stay above the game. Lessen R12s, repeats, because you just have to know the system, know what's there. If you don't like it, change it. It takes a second if you're doing a speed test, and I have timed it, it takes 30 seconds to change the connector. 30 seconds.
Right.
And that's not even trying to do it fast. 30 seconds.
Right.
What's 30 seconds to change 2 connectors? That's a minute.
That's exactly
right. A minute can save you an R12.
Absolutely.
It's a numbers game.
It is. Outstanding advice, John. I appreciate you taking the time. I've got one last question.
Yeah.
And it's a quick fire question, so I need a really quick answer on this.
I'll be quick.
Everybody knows that I'm a foodie. If you know me, you know I'm real interested in food, right?
Yes.
In your area, what is the best roadside restaurant that few people know about?
All right. If you're in Diamond Head, Mississippi, and you want a good po' boy, you want to stop at Dan's Diner.
Dan's Diner. Write it down. Write that down, Grant.
Writing it down.
Dan's Diner in Diamond Head. Awesome. Well, I hope we can get together out in the field sometime soon and go have us a po' boy at Dan's. But thank you so much, John. Outstanding performance in the month of May. We appreciate everything you do, and keep training those technicians up. You have a good one.
I try. Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys be good.
All right, you too.
You too, John. Man, that was an excellent interview, Todd. That was.
I had like 8 more questions. We could have talked for 2 hours.
Yeah, so hopefully, when you do get out to Diamond Head, we definitely want a report back on how those poi boys are from from your point of view.
I'm taking video, and we're gonna share it.
There you go.
Somewhere.
So I tell you what, we have another guest on the line. We have Mr. Ryan Hebert out of the Baton Rouge office, and he joins us today after sending some email submissions and being an avid listener of the podcast. Ryan said he wanted an opportunity to win a hat. Ryan, you out there?
Yes, sir.
Are you feeling competitive this morning?
Always. You know that.
I know you are. So I will say that on the questions I formulated, I'm not making it easy on you, my friend.
I didn't think you would.
We have a history together that dates all the way back to 2014 at the training facility, don't we, bud?
We do. We go way back.
So let's kind of lay out some of the rules here. So, one of the things that we've seen from this game show, nobody, guys, has gotten 5 questions correct yet. The most questions we've had answered correctly were 4. The last time we did this game show, we had Corby Nelson out of Meridian. He ended up getting stumped on that LNBF question. Never got to question number 5 there. And hey, maybe it'll happen today. But this is a mean, vicious hat on the line, Mr. Hebert.
History.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see the hat. I'm hoping I get this thing.
So I'll tell you. So if we get a wrong answer here, just like how Mark outlined a couple of weeks ago, we're gonna give it to our 2 hosts right here. So I'm gonna put it in their hands, the fate of this hat for Ryan Hebert. And now, Ryan, that's unless you can get all 5 questions answered correctly. You may breeze right.
Assuming that I'm going to get one wrong. I'm going to shoot for all 5 here.
I love it. All right, you ready?
Born ready.
All right, let's go to question 1. What does HIC stand for? And for those out there that may not know how it's spelled, this is HIC.
Grant, that would stand for Hopper Internet Connector.
That is absolutely correct. All All right. Fantastic. Yeah, we got a couple of dingers here, but those would be probably for. We got we're doing the best job we can in Mark's absence here. Hey, John, he has a couple of buzzers in here, and I think one's kind of a. Do that again, John, so everybody can hear.
Here we go. This first one.
All right, that's definitely for a wrong answer.
The second one.
Okay, let's do the springy boing boing one for a right answer. Okay, cool. All right, so Ryan, you got a springy boing boing after question number 1.
That's the official term, man.
All right.
Springy boing boing.
All right, let's go to question number 2, Mr. Hebert. On a traditional non-hybrid system, what 2 components or switches would you need to complete a Super Joey installation?
On a non-hybrid system, you'd run 3 lines down from the dot to L and B. It would go to a solo node and to a Super Joey integrator.
That is correct. And no, wrong one. We need the springy boing boing.
I'm fired. That's it.
All right, there we go. Okay. All right, yeah, so that's absolutely correct. And so, Ryan kind of went the extra mile there, gentlemen. He was talking about running 3 lines off the dish right there. Luckily enough, with the hybrid system, none of that's needed with that advanced client port in the system. So, fantastic job, Ryan. Moving on to number 3. We're going to get a little bit harder with these questions. So, Brian, on a VIP system, how would you go about relocating a TV2 antenna?
Oh, this is thinking back. Oh boy. All right. You have to have. God, I'm trying to picture this in my head. I apologize.
That's an old school question, Grant.
Yeah, this is. I have not done this in a long time. There's a splitter. Gosh, I have not seen this in a minute.
You're on the right path.
All right, so you run a coax off of the TV2 or TV1, the receiver antenna port. The TV2 is where the antenna is going to go. And you have to put this one is. I am trying to picture this in my head. It's probably been 5 years since I did this.
I originally had this as question 4, and I moved it up to 3 because I thought it may have been easier than question 3 I already had.
Question 4 must be really difficult.
Yeah, this is God, I can almost picture it in my head. I haven't seen it in a long time. You go, God. Can I call in a lifeline?
We haven't added that option yet, but we will consider that.
Given that question, we might need to.
Yeah, we may do that here in the future.
Man, I'm trying to picture it, but it has been a long time since I've done it. And honest to God, I would probably have to look it up on like the Satellite Guys website.
3 seconds.
Sorry. I can't get this one. It's a splitter and the antenna goes to TV2, but I cannot remember exactly how you set that splitter up.
No, I completely understand. So you'd have a splitter behind that dual tuner receiver, and you'd have a jumper cable coming off the TV2 port, and you'd have a jumper coming off of the UHF antenna port. And so basically you would take those 2 lines into a splitter and basically send them back through one line. So whether you did a direct backfeed or you're using a diplexer. Now in the TV2 room, that TV2 cable coming out of the floor or the wall or whatever, that would actually go into the one-way port of the splitter. And then you'd take on the other port a jumper to the actual TV2, and then you'd screw the antenna on in that TV2 location. So
and for those of you who don't know, that's like if it's too far away from TV1 and the remote will not read,
That's correct.
So you have to get it closer to TV too.
It is.
It's been a long time since I did that.
So
it's a
tell me,
discovery there.
Tell me if you think that question was harder than this one. On DBM loss, how many DBMs would you lose for every 10 feet of cable?
1.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, that was the other question. And then I did want to kind of share this last. I tell you what. Yeah, I know I'm kind of switching it up here, and Mark can spank my hand when he gets back. But I tell you what, let's see if you know this one. Let's just give it a run right here.
All right.
Our regular host, Mr. Mark Hamill, shared an interesting piece of background with us in episode 3 of the podcast. Mark was a professional magician on what cruise line?
Carnival?
That is correct as well. So while we didn't work our way progressively to the 5, we did get 4 or 5. So I'm going to officially now put it in our judges' hands. Todd and John, what are your thoughts?
I say we give Ryan a hat.
I say we give him a hat with a diagram. Just so you can remember. Put it in your pocket, Ryan.
That's right. So when I ship that hat out, I will include a diagram, Ryan, of the relocating a TV2 antenna, and you never forget. Just promise me you'll keep it in your van.
100%.
I have to say.
Thank y'all. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, can we get one more springy boing boing? There you go. I don't know if we can pick that up on the recorder, but all right. So Ryan, hey, thanks for joining us today. Hey, we appreciate you taking a little bit of time for us and contributing to the podcast, man. Keep on doing your thing out there, brother. I know you had a tremendous run and not having a service call for 4 months or something?
Yes, sir. It was pretty much the whole first quarter.
Yeah, dude. So you're doing a great job out there. Please stay hydrated. Be safe. We appreciate you, Ryan.
Will do. Thank y'all so much.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Y'all have a good one.
All right. So there, in conclusion to our game, right? We had we gave away another one of these awesome hats.
And they are awesome indeed. Yes.
Hey, Satellites Unlimited employees, are you looking to make quick and easy money? If the answer is yes, then we have the deal for you. Here at Satellites Unlimited, you can earn money for every person you refer to work with us. All you need to do is have your candidate go to www.suidish.com and use your name when applying, and we will do the rest. It's quick and easy. We're an employee-owned company and want to welcome your referral into the family. So what are you waiting for? Start referring people today.
You're listening to the Satellites Unlimited podcast. Now, back to the show.
All right. Well, we have our next guest on the line. We are stacking them up early and often here. We had a podcast question that we sent out that asked every technician, every manager within our organization, have you ever worked in a celebrity's home? And more specifically, we were talking about in the tech role. We had an answer from Mike James, and he was referencing some of the, a football player. I'm trying to remember his name. The Rams tackle. Just recently won a Super Bowl. Spent his career with the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah. But we had Jonathan King submitted a great testimonial to working for the Dynasty guys. So we made a phone call to Jonathan. I actually made a couple of phone calls. We called Camilo Munoz yesterday. He was on vacation. He said it was his wife's birthday today. We don't want him to get in any trouble. We're going to bring Camilo on to play for a hat as well. But John is on vacation up in the mountains, a well-deserved vacation. And so the Monroe team said, hey, we have a resident expert on the Duck Dynasty guys. And that was Dustin Collie, FSM out of Monroe off. Is she out there, Dustin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How y'all doing?
Doing great, man. I am going to send this over to the one and only John P.
Chapter systems are offline.
Thank you so much, Grant and Dustin. Welcome to the show. We want to get into your journey here at Satellites Unlimited in just a moment, but as Grant mentioned, of course, the podcast question, have you ever worked at a celebrity's home? And we understand it that you've had some experience with the Duck Dynasty cast. Now, I have to admit, Dustin, I've only watched Duck Dynasty a few times. I am aware of the show. I'm aware of the cast. Don't know a whole lot of details about them. So, if you would, share with us some of the stories that you can with us about the Duck Dynasty crew.
Yeah, so I've actually been to 4 or 5 of the homes or camps, really, from a Duck Dynasty cast. I'll say my first one was probably Godwin. Real down-to-earth guy. And I was in the tech role at that point. And when you come across someone that's famous and you don't know that you're actually going to their house, because I didn't until I get there, you kind of freeze up, if you know what I mean. And you don't want to ask a bunch of questions and be one of those TMZ type fans. But he was really down to earth. Had the chance of going to Sadie Robertson's house out in Calhoun, actually where I live. But the story I want to tell y'all, the most eventful story, happened at Willie's camp in South Monroe. Of course, Nick Stapleton's doing the internet install. He had Peel out there. Actually Nick had a trainee at this time. So this trainee, who's no longer with us, I don't even think that he made it out of training. And this was years ago. I'd put it at the 3-year mark. So we had to give y'all paint y'all a picture of what we're working on. I'd say a 3-story camp on stilts. So we had a 40-foot ladder, maxed out a 40-foot ladder, and we're around this whole camp is a porch. It was a wraparound porch. So we're putting the dish at the very top level on the porch. We had to run the line from the porch to the left-hand side of the camp, which went through the attic, ran the wire behind a TV that was mounted. And this is for HughesNet. They needed some internet out there. They had already had the TV service, Peel's retail. At this time, Kevin, it's getting late in the day. Kevin had already left. Nick, trainee. Nick had told the trainee to go drill a hole on the other side to bring the cable out so we could get the modem in there. And so he sent the trainee to do this. And he said, "All right, I got the hole run or drilled." Nick said, "No, you don't. I don't see it. Because you could see daylight if it should have came right toward him, the drill bit." He said, "No, I don't see it." He said, "Push the drill all the way up. Push it all the way up." And about that time, Nick sees the insulation coming from up in the ceiling, and he said, "No, stop." So Nick ran down and gets to that living room, and Willie's right there just staring at the trainees like, huh? So what the trainee did was drill straight through the ceiling instead of the wall. And Willie's right there watching him, and luckily for us, they were actually remodeling the camp, so we were able to, or they were putting boards right over the ceiling. So it wasn't a damage claim or anything, but that's kind of one of those experiences that you just start cringing over. So but they were really down to earth.
Oh, that's great to hear. And that's they say you never want to meet your what's the expression about you never want to meet your heroes or something like that nature. But it's great that when you hear about some of these celebrities that they truly are how they appear to be on television. It sounds like that was the case, at least with Willie Robertson. How about with Phil and Kay Robertson? Have you ever had a chance to service their home or have known of a technician that serviced their home?
Not their home. I have. It's really camps. Sadie and God, one of the only homes that I have serviced or that I know of anyone else had servicing. I've also installed at their duck camp, or one that they're affiliated with in Monroe. But they weren't there for that install, so no interaction with them there.
Now, if I understand correctly, you've also had a chance to, or someone at the office had a chance to provide service for Jeremy Pruitt from Swamp People, another reality show that I'm not familiar with. But tell us about that experience, if you would.
Yeah, so that was actually James Winborn. He was working in our Baton Rouge office. And that's the Toodle guy. Toodle.
Again, it's lost on me because I've never seen the show.
Oh, you got to catch up, JP. Come on now.
I'm out of touch.
Yeah, no, but that was James Winborn. Went out there, had some pictures taken. I want to say fed him some Cajun cuisines. But that was right up Winborn's alley, right? He's all about that life there, so he enjoyed that.
You know,
good out-of-market experience.
I remember, and Dusty may remember this as well in the area, about 10 or so years ago, there was another reality show in that area. I think it was in the Shreveport area, though, and I really liked this show, but I guess eventually got canceled. Billy the Exterminator. Do you remember that show?
Yes, I think that I do.
Okay, you may have been, I don't know if you were... maybe a little young for it, I don't know, but it was a pretty good show, though. Guy, do you remember Grant, Todd, remember that show, Billy the Exterminator?
I remember it. I do, yeah.
I think the main character's name was Billy Bretherton, I believe his name.
Don't think he turned out.
It did not turn out well, no. They were, I think it was ex-con exterminators, and they were based out of Shreveport. And I thought it was a great show because this guy would go out there and deal with alligators and wasps' nests and all kinds of things that requires a lot of safety focus. So I remember about 10 or so years ago, we had the idea that, hey, let's try to book this guy for an office visit. And Dustin, I don't know if you heard about this or not. We were trying to get him booked for the Monroe office, and I went online because they had a place online where you can go ahead and inquire about booking. I never heard back because we thought it'd be good to have this guy come out and talk to the technicians about workplace safety, but unfortunately, it never came to fruition because they never responded back to my inquiry. But anyway, so hey, I want to shift gears now and from celebrities to talking about you, Dustin, and your journey here at Satellites Unlimited. Now, you started with us back in April, I think it was April 22nd of 2016. And prior to coming to Satellites Unlimited, you had worked on oil rigs. So tell us a little bit about that experience, if you would.
Yeah, man. Prior to Satellites Unlimited, I spent 5 years on land and 5 years offshore. Right out of high school, I had a child, and I went straight to work. Very thankful for that oil field experience. To me, it gave me my work drive, my work ethic. You learn a lot out there. 5 years offshore. Once I went offshore, I'll never go back to land rigs because they feed you, they wash your clothes. It's heaven compared to land rigs.
Gotcha. And you started with us 2016. 3 years later, in April of 2019, you got promoted to FSM. So tell us how that came about. Did you put in for that position, or did somebody approach you about the opportunity?
I had put in for the FSM position pretty early in my career, and I did not get it. Rightfully so. It was a tenure. I want to say it's when John King went into office. I had put in then, and I did not put in again for the next two positions. And then Mike had approached me that I think he was going to the Albertville office or something, if I remember right, and that we needed somebody, and that's how I was in a good spot in my life. I was able to move up here to Monroe because I did live about an hour away. So it was a good time in my life to make that jump. I was kind of struggling as a tech then. I was kind of burnt out. I needed a change, and it was a very healthy change for me.
And Dustin, your general manager, Mike James, he attributes your success to being open and honest with your communication that you demonstrate with each of your team members. Tell us, how do you feel you've grown as an individual and as a leader in this company?
So to go back to the crane, I was a crane operator offshore, so that was kind of a management experience for me. That was my first dose of management experience, where I was managing 12 to 15 roustabouts underneath me. So when I came to the field service manager role, I wanted that management, right? It was fun to me. It was, all the above. Where I think I've grown is being able to treat others how I want to be treated, showing them with respect, teaching them how to treat others, and that goes a long way, and it affects this job in so many different ways, because they take care of their customers the same, they take care of their families the same, and it's just a good morale booster. I think the morale boost, I think, is where I've gotten the best at.
Well, Dustin, that's a very interesting observation and a excellent philosophy for all of us to follow. We thank you so much for being on the show, and continued success.
You bet, man. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you, Dustin. Take care, bud.
Yeah. Be safe. Bye.
You too, buddy. All right, and that is the interview with DC. What are you guys' thoughts on Mr. Collie there?
Spent a lot of time with Dustin, super awesome guy, and I'll tell you what, a large group of technicians in the Monroe office have a tremendous amount of respect for him and what he does. He's very well respected in that office, and he's earned that. Interesting factoid, you ready for this, Grant? And this is, I think it's probably pretty unique in many companies. As a percentage, I'll ask it in question form. As a percentage, how many of our field service managers were technicians? Do you know?
I'll say 95%.
I would venture to say probably 100%.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Grant. 100%. Let's go a step further, shall we? How many of our general managers started at this company as technicians?
I will say 90%.
I'll go 100%.
You're absolutely right again. Grant gets the prize.
I'm wrong both
What do I
times.
get?
Come on
Wait.
now,
Hey,
guys.
can I get my buzzer?
Here it goes.
All right, and then one for John, please.
John.
If you don't mind.
For my two wrong answers.
John's got the bozo horn. No, that's absolutely right. It's a testament to our ability to recognize talent, to promote talent, and to really progress the careers beyond just the technician role here at Satellites Unlimited. I'm very proud of the fact that a large number also of our corporate staff came out of our technician ranks. I think that's pretty unique in any industry.
Yeah, no, I think when you look at, Greg, was a technician when I first started here, vice president of operations now. You look at yourself, Todd, manager of technician development. My journey there's so many people that have enjoyed that journey through the years, and I tell you, it's one of my favorite things is seeing the growth in others. I can speak to my own personal and professional growth here at Satellites Unlimited, but it's really seeing folks like Dustin Collie and watching him along this journey. If that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what will. I tell you what, guys, let's continue with the celebrity theme, and I'm really enjoying this show, is, our celebrity question. We had some submissions from technicians. based off the question we sent out. And I believe you guys got some of those in front of you to read.
It's time for Technician Stories from the Field.
And I literally had her running out the door as I'm driving away. And I got to give her credit. She kept up for a good while and at least ran a block and a half.
So I've got one that was sent to us by Wesley Carroll. He's bouncing around offices because of territories, but he's currently with the Montgomery office. And a local celebrity, if you will, and really nationally known if you look back historically from governors are known for politics, right? But he went out and installed former Governor Bob Riley's home. Huge house, apparently, right? Politics pays. Or you have to have money to get into politics. I don't know. We won't get into politics. Mom told me not to. But he was a very nice gentleman with Wesley. 27 TVs in this house. Massive install. Yeah, coming from you and I, we know that's a big job, right? Took him all day. And oddly enough, former Governor Riley often calls Wesley about once a month with regards to something about the install. So
how cool is that?
Apparently, Wesley Carroll has a bat phone to the former governors of the state of Alabama. So,
does that include Robert Bentley?
You know, for those listening to the podcast not familiar with Alabama politics, we're going to leave that one alone, John.
Google Robert Bentley.
All right, what else you guys got?
Well, we heard from Dustin Collie talking about the cast from Duck Dynasty, and Mike James, actually general manager from Monroe and Baton Rouge, mentioned the Duck Dynasty cast as well, but also mentioned that he did a install for Andrew Whitworth, NFL football player.
That was his name.
So, yeah, there we go. I do not know what team.
He plays for the Rams.
Okay, yep. Very good. Okay.
He didn't always.
Just won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, didn't always.
Against his former team. He played for the Bengals forever. Todd's favorite team, as a matter of fact. How can we go through a podcast episode without plugging your favorite NFL football team? And for those that may be questioning whether Todd has jumped the bandwagon based off of their most recent Super Bowl appearance under the guidance and careful hand of Joe Burrow, Todd's been a Bengals fan for a long time. So, as long as I've known him, he's been a Bengals fan. So, what else you guys got from a tech story standpoint? We had a bunch of submissions on this one.
Yeah, we did indeed. And this is one from Andrew Weed. This doesn't necessarily qualify as a celebrity, but maybe it's a celebrity lookalike.
Yeah, so, it's a real animatic, as I said. Right?
So he states here that he did a install for a gentleman that looked exactly like Geddy Lee from Rush. So I don't know if either of you gentlemen ever heard of the band Rush from the 1980s.
Do you know the band
Very
Rouge?
familiar with the band, but not familiar with the members. So
Same.
Geddy Lee, I think, was the lead singer.
Was he?
For Rush, yeah. So
Okay.
I'm very familiar because that was my era. So, but he looked exactly like Geddy Lee, and he said the funny part is that he actually played guitar and wrote music as well. So that's interesting. And he concluded here, Mr. Weed did, that he thought he was on an episode of Punk'd, because I guess this gentleman looks so much like Geddy Lee from the band Rush.
You have to wonder too, was that really Geddy Lee, and he was just playing it off, maybe a burner account or something. You know what I mean? A burner dish account.
Just didn't want to be bothered, right? I wonder how many burner dish accounts there are out there.
Right.
We need to investigate that. It appears to me that a good way to become a guest on this podcast is by submitting things to our questions that we put out there. Because we have another one from a gentleman that we just talked to, Ryan Hebert, and this is a pretty big one, right? At least in the seafood world. Jameis Winston, when he signed with New Orleans, had an apartment, rather nice apartment. Well, actually, I think it was described as modest apartment in the New Orleans area. And Ryan was tasked with going out there to do an install, a ring install for Jameis Winston. Jameis wasn't there. He was in training camp. But this was right about, and this is the funny part, it was right about the time that COVID was becoming a very large deal, right? And so, and nobody really knew how to handle that from a technician standpoint or what expectations with customers are. I think we worked that out as time's gone by, but you know, that's a big deal, right? If you go into a professional athlete's home, and Jameis wasn't there, but his wife was there, and I think it was insinuated to Ryan by his manager that if he were to actually go in, who happened to be at the time a very big New Orleans fan, I think he would call it a warning. Ryan, if you go into that house and you give his wife coke, and she gives it to him, and then the whole New Orleans Saints organizations, those dominoes are falling.
Some pretty passionate fans down there in New Orleans too.
Absolutely.
My son and I recently attended a Monday Night Football game down there. It was the first time I was in the Superdome. This was December 27th of last year, and I tell you what, the stadium was a lot more beautiful on the inside than what I thought it would be, because it's been there forever.
Yep.
So I know it went, under a lot of, improvements and kind of a makeover after Hurricane Katrina, but I didn't expect it to be as nice as it was. It was a beautiful venue. What else we got, guys? I think we had one from Kevin Bates.
Interesting, Dustin Bowerman.
Chase Bowerman,
out of our Birmingham office. He brought up a name. Again, these are, you got to kind of be a part of a certain group of people or to have certain interest to know who this is. But he worked on one of the family homes for the Moultrie family. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I wasn't until Chase explained to me in that email.
So it's a company, and what they do is they do game cameras, right? And they build feeders for hunters. And
it's supposed to be some of the best, right?
Oh, absolutely. And they developed this system, and it's one of the, hands down, one of the best feeders, according to Chase, out there. So he had the fortune of doing an installation for that family, and he got to meet everybody and kind of talk to them about how they developed the system and all of that. So sometimes a celebrity is what you deem a celebrity, right? Not necessarily somebody that the whole world knows, but you know about them, and you're interested in that, and it's kind of like meeting one of your heroes, right?
That's right.
So we got another one. You mentioned Kevin Bates out of Chattanooga. And this actually happened to him, I think, in mid-June. And he states here that he did a service call at a former NFL player for the Cleveland Browns' extremely lavish home. His name was Leo Biederman. Did I pronounce that correctly?
I don't know if it's Biederman or Biederman. I'm not really sure.
Biederman, Betterman, tomatoes, I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, Leo Biederman, very nice people, basic daily business on the work end, find and fix the problem, and let's see, while he's attempting to make a sale. And let's see, he said the funny part of it is, though, he went the whole time and started realizing that this gentleman looked like the man in all the pictures with famous people and memorabilia. So I guess he finally put two and two together and realized who this gentleman was. So then when he got back home, I'm going off the email that he sent us here, Mr. Bates sent us. He said, being a huge Patriots fan, I put two and two together and realized I probably messed up bad. Laughing out loud. If I'm not mistaken, he would have played for the Browns at the same time Coach Bill Belichick was coaching him. I would have loved to make that connection there and pick his brain of what the coach was really like. So that's interesting.
I mean, being a Patriots fan, being in that home, being able to maybe pick the brain and find out what a younger Bill Belichick, was thinking and how he was coaching at that point in time, that would have been a really cool moment. So, yeah, guys. So, our folks are constantly, and I know we didn't have any emails about really necessarily local celebrities, not necessarily maybe nationally known, but locally known. But I know for a fact our guys are servicing these folks and installing for these folks on a daily basis. It's just, it's one of the things that makes the tech job so great, in my opinion, is the interesting people that, you're able to meet regardless of celebrity status.
Yeah, hey, you know, our technicians are in areas, they're doing work in areas where they live. They may be doing the mayor's house. They may be doing the high school football coach's house. You know, we become an integral part of our neighborhoods as dish technicians. And so while it's always nice to be able to have a story or to talk about some famous person you might have met or you know, somebody that you might have bumped into while you're working, I think it's equally as important that we're there for our communities to be able to provide an integral service, you know, a window to the outside world through Dish Network.
So a question for both of you gentlemen, because I've never been a technician, so I've never had the chance to service a celebrity's home. Have either of you had that luxury, that benefit?
I'm going to have to default and say yes, but not a national celebrity, a very local celebrity and very specific to our company. I've worked on Roddy's house.
There you go.
That's about a celebrity in this
organization. That's a celebrity in my book.
It is. And just as kind of a preview for the next podcast, I'm glad you said that. We will have a guest appearance from Roddy McKinney himself.
That's right.
On the next podcast.
I'm so looking forward to that.
So tune in. It's a special episode.
I think Miss Janice as well will be joining Mr. Roddy.
I believe Miss Janice will be in-house as well, and we will have a special technician guest yet to be announced. It will be a huge episode for sure. As far as celebrities, guys, there's you know, local musicians, you know, there's some football players, stuff like that. You know, I don't know those. You know, I can remember doing a job. I can't remember if it was. I don't think it was Justin Tuck's house, but he was a defensive end for the New York Giants. But it was some of his family that were down here. There was another ex-footballer over here in Leeds, Alabama. I think I had told that story before on the podcast. But yeah, our guys have the unique and innate opportunity to affect people's lives on a daily basis and meet interesting people. One of the things that just makes this job so great, as many of the hardships as our guys experience and, you know, kind of take on the daily, whether it be working in the heat or in attics or crawl spaces, you know, they definitely have the ability to put a smile, to John Richard's point earlier, to put a smile on somebody's face and really have a true impact into their life. You know, I can remember we were talking about Roddy. Roddy used to say, you know, it was a pacifier for the children, and I think a babysitter for the husband is how he would refer to the services that we provided. And you know, you just don't ever know what that means to an individual to come out and provide the services that we provide. So with that being said, what do you guys think of this episode?
You know what? I've had a ball, quite frankly, Grant. I hope to be invited back at some point.
Oh, it's been great having you. It's been great having you.
Definitely been a lot of fun. We had some great guests on the show, and looking forward to the next program.
Yeah, I did want to throw out a contest update too. We do have our summer poker series going on. I sent out an email yesterday. By the time this podcast comes out, it'll be a few days back, and our next update will occur on Tuesday. I do want to remind folks that we'll be issuing out 2 decks. There'll be 104 cards this week versus 52. Right now in the competition, we have a laundry list of folks that have some pretty good hands: Abraham Trapani, Jeremiah Compton, Casey Woods, Remington Hood, Stephen Jenkins, Evan Elliott, Michael Murphy, Andrew McKissick, to name a few. So it's an exciting contest with a lot of money on the line. You know, you're looking at, you know, $7,500 from a tech standpoint, going to be, you know, issued out at the beginning of August based off of the results of this contest. And so, hey guys, super excited, you know, for what the future holds for our organization, for our podcast. Todd, again, thank you for being a special guest in the house. John P., as always, thank you so much for being a consistent pillar in the podcast, and always available to spend some time and talk. And to me, it's just an absolute joy for us to be able to connect with our people every 2 weeks on the podcast and hear what's on their mind and provide a little bit more recognition. Ultimately, our job is in support of them. They have the toughest job out in the field. For Todd McClinton and John P., this is Grant Hoban. We'll see you next time.